Happy New Year! That's right, we are reviewing another movie on Happy New Year. Or New Year's Day, if you want to call it that. So, you might be asking, what are we going to review? Well, as you just saw from the title and the votes, we are going to be reviewing the Minions movie. Now, having to review Despicable Me 2, it was not better than the first one, but it was still good. Now, let's just hope the camera didn't malfunction like last time, because that was a big problem. Alright, let's insert the Minions movie, and let's hope for the best. Okay, so we get this weird animation thing, which completely ships, well, the intro. It explains they were made from, jeans. Yeah. Not the pants, the cells. Jeans. And so, they just want a boss to admire. Otherwise they would perish. So then they find a dinosaur, who they accidentally kill by making him juggling on a boulder and making him fall into a volcano. Then they tried many other bosses, like pharaohs, Dracula, even soldiers, and even a caveman. But all those died because of their fault. But one of them had them retreat so hard they had to find a cave, which would become important later. So then they built civilization there, but they had no master, which means they had no purpose. But then Kevin decides to take two other minions to leave the cave and find the new boss. And we know where those two were. Stuart and Bob. Bob was really eager to go, but Kevin was concerned, so he just decided to take Stuart, who didn't know what he was chosen for, so he just starts singing a random song, which is actually kind of funny.
Thank you, La Tota! Thank you! Pacalana. Un outro?
And then we see Bob trying to lift an ice cube to see how strong Kevin really is.
Sorry, Porto!
Yeah, Kevin feels bad, so he just let Bob join. So then they leave the cave, and then they're out to sea, and Stuart starts to hallucinate, and thinks that Kevin and Bob were both bananas. I mean, yeah, because they're both yellow.
Pora no la matoka. Huh? Banana? Stuart? Macareno? Banana!
But then they saw a boat go past New York City, which Santa doesn't want to fly around New York City at nighttime because he already saw what happened during the daytime. I think that's what it is. I don't know. Statue of Liberty. I think the Statue of Liberty is there. I don't know what that place is. Could somebody please tell me on the comments? But anyways, that's where we see where the minions get their overalls from, without the Gru mark on it. And so, that's where they go into a shopping mall, and that's where they spend the night. But then they find out about VillainCon, which is a place where you can find villains, and we see the very first female villain. Not a cartoon, but this was Extinction, the fairy history was made. Scarlet Overkill. And so they decide to go to VillainCon after their sleep, and so they try to figure out how they can get a ride, and so that's when they meet a family who's also on their way to Orlando too. And so, when they rob a bank, that's where we see the cop chase, and that's when two minions were fighting over a bazooka, which shoot it and block the paths of the policemen, and then the minions start blaming each other, like trying to frame each other, but then that backfires, and then we get to Orlando, which at the time was a swamp. And then the password was, yep, it's a crime. And then they go to VillainCon, and that's where you see Gru for the very first time, as a freeze ray thing, not actually in person. And so that's when we see in many other auditions, and that's where we see the golden statue of Scarlet Overkill. So the minions go there, and we see her in person. And that's when the thing was, you gotta grab the ruby to get the job. And so, we see an epic battle scene, the minions refuse, but somehow, Bob swallows it and spits it out. So, of course, they become the henchmen. So now, they're introduced to the place, so they have to get the crown from the Queen of England, and then they were given gadgets, and of course, they had to get past security, twice in fact. Yep. And then we see a hilarious song. So that's where we see another guard who's outsmarting them. And that's where we see Bob has the only one with the vengeance left. And of course he grows robotic legs, starts chasing the queen. And that's where we see a funny chase scene. Yep. And of course Bob pulls out the sword from the stone. Yep. And they all bow down. And of course, even though they failed, that's when we see, I think that's when we see Scarlet Overkill making a parody of Three Little Pigs. I think that might be before she gave them the gadgets, but we'll never know for sure. And that's when the minions start taking baths, and of course Scarlet was pissed. So they sent them to the torture room with Blurb, which is really, I don't know what his name was. So then they decided it was a playroom. Yeah. And that did not help her at all. And so, when she does eventually become queen, the minions tried to kill her with a chandelier, which is on accident. But of course, the villains go after the minions, and of course, the minions that get captured are Stuart and Bob. Kevin has not been caught yet, but accidentally gets turned giant by a ridiculous machine. And then he attempts to try and stop Scarlet Overkill. And so, yeah. And of course, we see a chase, and that's really funny. That's where we see the other minions come in because the Yetis kicked them out. And of course, one of the minions is wearing a hat because I don't know where he got that. We just saw them coming out of the subway and then into a dinner. When they heard Kevin out there, they decide to go outside, only to get cornered by Scarlet Overkill, and that's where Kevin smacks the crap out of her. Yeah, and that's where we see a funny thing where Kevin accidentally swallows a minion and spits him out. And of course, Kevin eats a rocket and grabs on the Scarlet Overkill, exploding. And we all thought he died, but no, it just reversed the effects of the giants, and of course he's back to normal. And that's where we see the minions get a reward from the Queen of England, only to find out her crown is gone again. And that's when they saw Scarlet. They try to stop her, but then, big shocker, she gets frozen. Gru is here! So now, that's where we get introduced to Gru, and of course, will be continued in The Rise of Gru. So all in all, this is a pretty great prologue. Yeah, I think this is what it's called, prologue. Yeah, this is the prologue to Despicable Me, and I really like what it's setting up. So yeah, pretty good prologue. Yep, nothing much else to say here. I just wanted us to have a New Year's start, and I'll be making a new series, ranking something soon. So vote in the poll right now to see which movie you want me to review next. In the meantime, oh my god! Oh, that scared me so bad. Okay, if you excuse me, I need to go turn off the TV. In the meantime, vote in the poll. Yeah, I'll go turn on my TV.